Hi, and welcome to the 21 Days of Encouragement, the workout series. And today is day 14 of the workout series. And generally on day 14, we would continue on and we would keep pressing on and have a word. And today is no exception. We have a word, but I do want to do something completely different that I've never done before in a 21 days of encouragement. Today, I want to start off by reviewing some of the things we've talked about. I keep mentioning that the only way that this really works is that we have to continue these things. We can't just watch the video that day, work on it that day, and then not do it. Behaviorists say that if you want to break any habit, it takes 21 days of consistency to break that habit. And I know it would be so much easier if every day the topic was the same thing, just presented in a different way. But friends, what I know and understand is that the Lord wants us to break some of the habits, some of the things in our lives that have been keeping us from being the best that we can be, from being the great, reaching rather our level of greatness. So friends, let's continue to work on these things. Let's continue to look at each and every one of these things. So as we go back and look at these things, we remember that day one, we started off with James chapter 1, verses 2 through 5. And we began to talk about how we should count it all joy when we go through diverse temptations. Why? Because we understand that each and every one of your trials, each and every one of your problems and your issues is working for your good. No, you're not going to be perfect on this side, and you're not going to pass each and every one of the trials and the tests that come your way. But it is building a character within you. When you look back, you realize that after you went through something, after you've went through some test, some trial, now you're a bit smarter. You don't fall for the same foolishness that you fell for years ago, a month ago, a year ago even. You don't fall for that same foolishness. Why? Because you have learned from your past. You have allowed the troubles and the trials of your life to work within you. Friends, let's remember at day one, let's continue from day one to work out this thing in our mind that says we're going to be perfect and have it all together. But let's work in the mindset of knowing that your problems are working for your good. So let's exercise our mind into believing and knowing that, hey, this thing is going to work out for my good. Then, day two, we talked about comfort in sharing your testimony. We came from 1 Corinthians, I do believe, and we talked about, how when we were comforted, then the Lord has allowed us to use our comfort to bless somebody else by telling them, hey, listen, God brought me out of this, and this is how he brought me out. And I know you're hurting right now, but he will bring you out of it too. So friends, we have to get past the horror and the shame of our past, of our testimony, and begin to share our testimony with others. Friends, let's exercise. Let's exercise getting past that ugliness, getting past that hurt, and help the next generation by sharing our story with them. Then we look at day three. Day three, we talked about working past others' thoughts and plans for our lives. Friends, the Lord said For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, thoughts of good and not of evil, plans to prosper you and bring you to an expected end. So friends, if God has plans and purpose for your life, then why won't you just trust him? Don't worry about what mom said you ought to be doing, what dad said you ought to be doing, what sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, grandmothers, anyone said that you ought to be doing. But just follow the plan that God has for your life. And you may say, well, James, I don't know what the plan is that God has for my life. Well, even though you may not know it, I know that you can find it. How do you find it? You find it through prayer. You find it through fasting, through reading God's word, and God will begin to speak to you like never before. Then, friends, we moved on from there on day 3, and we moved on to day 4, which was getting past ourselves and our excuses. On this day, we looked at the man who was at the pool of Bethesda, and every time the water was troubled, he never seemed to make it in because of one thing or another. But then when Jesus came by, he said, Lord, I don't have anyone to put me in the pool. But all Jesus asked him was, do you want to be healed? So, on day 4, we exercised excuses out of our life. Excuses are like fat that we carry on our bodies. It's just extra fat that's in the way. It's not really good for much of anything. We could do without that fat. We can do without the excuses as well. So, we talked about excuses and working excuses out of our lives on day 4. Day 5, we talked about working past fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of disappointing someone, fear. We worked out fear. We said, fear, get out of our lives. Again, fear is just like those love handles that are so bothersome and they just keep us from looking as good as we would love to look. And so we started to work fear out of our lives. Then on day 6, oh my goodness, day 6 was so good. Day 6, we worked on patience. We exercised our patience. Patience is one of the strongest muscles that we could ever have, because without our patience, if we just fly off the mouth every time something happens, something goes wrong, we just start going at it, boom, and we just go off and talk, just say whatever's on our head. Then how can people tell that we're a Christian? How can people tell that we love God, that we are children of God? But when we have patience and we say, you know what? I know you did me wrong. I know that this happened, but it's cool. I'm going to let the Lord handle it. See, that's the thing. So many of us want to handle our problems and our issues ourselves, but it takes patience to let the Lord have his way and work things out. Because the Lord said, vengeance is mine. So that means someone's taking advantage of you. They're causing you some problems, headaches, troubles. You say, okay, it's in God's hand. You don't try and get even. You're just patiently waiting on the Lord. So day 6, we talked about patience, and we even covered patience in some different ways on that day. So you may want to go back and check out day 6. But then on day 7, we talked about forgiveness. And forgiveness is, it's like the leg muscles. Okay, you want to have strong legs, or at least good looking legs. You don't want all the extra cellulite, this, that, and the other. You want nice, toned, firm legs. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness are the legs that we stand on. And we need to exercise our forgiveness. We need to start forgiving other people for the wrongs that they do to us. Again, like I said just a few minutes ago, a few seconds ago, as we were talking about patience, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So why can't we just say, you know what? You did me wrong. I forgive you. I forgive you. I'm letting it go. I'm not going to allow you to hurt me again, but I'm letting it go. I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm not going to see you 3 or 4 years down the line, some months down the line, and be like, I just can't stand you. Because you did me wrong. You did this, that, and the other. Forgiveness. Then, on day 8, day 8 was so good. We talked about self-control. Friends, we have to learn to control ourselves. We have to learn to control our emotions. I believe that's the way we dealt with it that day, is we have to learn to keep our emotions in check. When we look at James chapter 1, again, it talks about how every person, when they are tempted, must not say that they are tempted of the Lord. For we are tempted when we are drawn away by our own lusts and desires. Friends, we have to learn how to keep our lusts in check, our emotions in check, how to keep all of these things in check and have self-control. See, self-control when you're working out says, when you're physically working out says, you know what, I just finished working out. Maybe I don't need a bear claw with my vanilla mocha latte. Or maybe I don't need an extra helping. Or maybe, self-control is the thing that says, you know what, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I know I got a busy day ahead of me. And I don't have to be to work technically until about 7, 8 o'clock. I could just roll over and get some more sleep. Or maybe I could go to the gym and work out. Self-control says, you know what, I'm tired right now. I've had a long day. I don't feel like praying right now. I just want to go to sleep. But self-control says, no, I'm going to put myself in a position where I'm not going to fall asleep. Because if I try and pray laying in this bed, I know I'm going to fall asleep. So let me get in a position where I know I won't fall asleep. Maybe you'll stand up and walk around. But we have to have self-control, friends, because self-control is what keeps us physically, spiritually, and mentally fit. So, we dealt with self-control on day 8. Then day 9, we talked about anger. And self-control and anger can even go hand in hand. A lot of these go hand in hand. We have to learn to control our anger. Because if we don't control our anger, then how can we say that we are representatives of Christ if every time something happens, we're angry and cussing someone out? If every time something happens, we just fly off and we have a fit of rage. Friends, I want to encourage you yet again to learn to control your anger. We talked about on that day, the Bible says, be angry, but sin not. So I want to encourage you to work on your anger, because anger profits you nothing. Matter of fact, I believe we dealt with Proverbs that day. I want to say around maybe the 25th chapter, 32nd verse, if memory serves correctly, which says, a man with anger is like a city with no walls that is defenseless and has been ravaged. So friends, I want you to know that when you don't exercise, calming yourself down, and when you don't work anger out of your life, then friends, anger has a way of making you look bad. Anger, since I've been doing this whole video, let me see, anger is just like the unsightly arm fat that we get here, that jiggles and wiggles, and your whole body can look good, but then you have all that extra jiggling down there, and you haven't been working out your arms and working that fat off your arms. Now all of a sudden your body looks good, but then people look at your arms and it just doesn't match up. It doesn't work out. And anger is the same way. Your walk with Christ looks one way. People think that you look this way, but then you start acting out of character with your anger. Now all of a sudden, it's like you look like a Christian, but I don't know. You need some more work. So friends, work on that anger. Let's work anger out of our lives. Then on day 10, Kristen came in and talked about self-worth. Friends, self-esteem and self-worth is so very important, because if you don't feel good about you, how can you expect someone else to feel good about you? If you don't like you, how would you expect anyone else to like you? I've been in a relationship in years past with young ladies who didn't think they were that pretty, who didn't think they were that attractive. And because they didn't think so, I may have thought so initially, but the more that they talked down on themselves, the more miserable I became. It's like, why do I want to be with someone who can't see the beauty in their own self? So, friends, I want to encourage you to begin to see the beauty in yourself. Begin to see your value, that you have self-worth. So that was day number 10. Kristen talked about self-worth. And now to day number 11. We started in Genesis chapter 1. And we started talking about setting up a list and prioritizing and working out your list. Friends, these things that we're talking about are so very key, so very important for the next level of your life, for the next year that you are going into. If you don't want to be on the level that you've been on for the past 2-3 years, these things are so important. Organization, fixing a list, working a list, prioritizing, all of these things are so important. Even in that, we've also talked about, and I'm just going through days numbers 11 through 13 right now. We've talked about, you have to learn to look at what you've accomplished in that day. After you've set up your list and you've worked something off on your list, saying, okay, I did a good job. That was it for the day. You know what? It was good. I did what I could. I put my best foot forward. And then call it a day and get some rest. Because when you look at the story of creation, that's what the Lord did. He had a list. He prioritized. He said, okay, first I'm going to do this. Second, I'm going to do that. Because if I don't do this, then that can't happen. He organized it. He prioritized it. He had his list. And we see the list in Genesis chapter 1. We see the list. We can go down the list of all the things he did. Then, finally, day 13, we talked about organizing our lives, organizing our spiritual time, our time with the Lord. We talked about organizing our thoughts, organizing. Friends, organization is so key. How can you function in clutter? I've tried it within my life. And I used to be of the mindset that even in my clutter, there was some sort of organization. And to a degree, maybe I did. Like, I remember there was one period in my life I had, when I was living by myself, I would have a stack of papers and bills and things. And I would have this stack, or the first part of the stack, turned one way, and that would be, school papers, as far as bills I had to pay for the school, or things I needed to do for the school. Then there were like regular bills, water bills, gas bills, all that kind of stuff. And it was so junky, but in my mind, it was organized. I think Kristen talked about how I used to organize. I still actually have my DVD collection organized. And I have it sectioned off by actor, and then in numerical or chronological order from the year that this movie was done. The first movie he did this year, all the way down to the last movie he did whatever year. And I even organize my drawers. I'll have my socks in one drawer, my underwear in another drawer, undershirts, and then, colored shirts. And then I used to organize my closet and have colors here, certain colors grouped here, another color here, sweaters here, this, that, and the other. And I still do some of that to a degree. But friends, life flows so much easier when you can go to something and say, okay, I have it here and I can just grab it. Okay, I know this is here, I can just grab it. But then there are areas that, since I'm being transparent, that I don't have so organized. When I come home, I like to just take things out of my pocket and just place them wherever I am at that time and leave them there. I like to just take my shoes off and leave them wherever I take them off. But friends, when we do things like that, it causes clutter. It doesn't look clean, nor does it look organized. So friends, we have to work on our organization. Organization, all these things that we talked about from days 11 on down to days 13 are just quite simply, that's the final bit of like when you start working out. You can't wear, I remember when I was living in Atlanta and I had started losing a lot of weight, I was still wearing my old clothes, and even though my body looked good, my clothes were too baggy, and so I would be wearing pants that you would see bunched up, this, that, and the other. See, we're kind of dealing with the whole person here. We're kind of wanting to deal with every bit of things because, if you're going to succeed and go to the next level in this new year, there are some things that you have to work out. There are some things that you have to work on. And friends, I don't want you to think that because I'm doing a review today that the series is over. No. We still have love to deal with. We still have so many other areas. I don't want to give it all away because then you won't come back and watch the rest of the videos. But friends, we have to get to a place and a point where we say, you know what? I want to be better. I'm tired of who I've been, of what I've been doing. So let me work on being better. Let me work on becoming more successful by organizing things, by doing this, by working out my anger, by controlling my emotions and having self-control, by building up my self-worth. Friends, we have to learn to work these things out. We have to learn to exercise these things if we want to go to the next level and be successful in that next level. Because you see, so many of us will reach the next level. Whether we try to or not, most of us will achieve the next level. But how long you stay there, how well you perform there, will depend on how you handle these things, how you handle these situations. Friends, we've run out of time, but I just want to encourage you today to work on all of these things that we talked about. Work on all of the issues that we have been facing, that we have been dealing with. Because if we don't work on these things, if we don't exercise these things out of our lives and some of the other areas, if we don't exercise them in our lives, then how can we be prepared and ready for the next season, for the next level, for the new year? Friends, I love you and I thank God for each and every one of you. Now let's continue to work on all of these things so that we can reach our level of greatness. You be blessed, friends. We love you.
Let's get the highest praise.